morning, everybody. My name is Leslie Ann Johnson. Welcome to this morning's post-cabinet press briefing. So we have with us, and of course, just to say good morning to all of our colleagues joining us via Zoom. Of course, those of you in the diaspora joining us on Channel 22, our Facebook page, YouTube channel, and of course, our 24-hour live stream. It's always good to be with you. So we have with us this morning the Minister for Sports, Culture and the Arts, Fisheries and Cooperatives, the Honourable Yolande Bain Hosford. We also have with us Mr. Troy Garvey, the Chairperson of the National Organising Committee for the Games. We know West Indies and South Africa will be playing a number of games here in a few days from now. So we're talking about sports this morning, but we'll also be talking about education a little later on. But for right now, we are speaking sports, and as I mentioned, we have with us the Honourable Yolande Bain Hosford. So without any further ado, I will hand you over to the Honourable Minister. Good morning to you.
Thank you very much, Leslie. Thank you very much, Leslie, and good morning to all the members of the media here and to the listening public out there. As far as we have the diaspora listening, I'm sure. Good morning to you all. Well, South Africa is touring the West Indies and is scheduled to play 2 test matches and 5 T20 internationals here in Grenada. In keeping with the new Cricket West Indies hosting model, international matches and regional tournaments are allocated to every CWI member country with a guarantee of hosting at least one international West Indies men and or women's international match every year. Grenada was identified as the preferred host country for the West Indies T20 International Series against South Africa from June 26th to the 3rd of July 2021. With approximately 130 persons, including match officials and teams, expected to arrive here in Grenada during the course of this week. The Ministry is working very closely with Cricket West Indies, the Grenada Cricket Association, and the COVID-19 team to ensure the matches are delivered in a safe and sound manner. We are very happy to host those matches, and we are making all the necessary preparations at the National Stadium to have those matches roll out smoothly. As a host country, we will have the opportunity to promote the island to millions of cricket viewers worldwide and share in the benefits of hosting international matches. Accompanying me this morning is Mr. Troy Garvey, the chairman of the National Organizing Committee, and he would fill you in on all the details as it relates to the hosting of the games here in Grenada. Thank you.
Good morning, Troy. Go right ahead.
Good morning, Leslie Ann. Good morning to all. Good morning, Leslie Ann. Good morning to our Minister of Sport. Good morning to our viewers and listeners across the nation and right around the world. It's indeed a challenge, and as we have done in the past, Grenada is committed to deliver these games at the highest possible level, way beyond the minimum standards, like we have done many, many times before. To update you, most of Team West Indies are on the ground. Some of the key players are here. There are about 26 persons on the ground as we speak. As of tomorrow, Wednesday, we'll have everyone coming in. That's approximately 103 persons, including the South African team, including the rest of Team West Indies, officials, and the entire television production crew, as we ready Grenada, as we ready the venue for the delivery of these 5 T20 games. To remind you, the games are on the 26th, that's this coming Saturday, the 27th, the 29th, the 1st and the 3rd of July. The games will start at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It's approximately about 3 hours in duration, and we are expecting a great show, an improved show from Team West Indies, from that of the test matches in St. Lucia, and really continue to show and demonstrate their dominance in the T20 version of the game. I would like to take you back a bit to put this whole event in context. The games originally were not scheduled for Grenada. They were scheduled for Trinidad and Tobago. And because of the COVID situation in Trinidad, it was decided to move the games. And because of our track record in hosting international games, Grenada got the nod to host these 5 T20 games. There was short notice, but the ministry put together a very solid team to deliver. And I think that we are on track to deliver these games at the very highest level. As relates to cricket operation, the venue itself, the National Stadium, is being readied. We have identified the strips. We're preparing the various elements to ensure that everything is met and up and ready for Saturday. As a matter of fact, Team West Indies, they have been on the ground doing their closed-door training operations for the past 2 days. What is different about this event? The event is being staged with a global pandemic, and we all understand why things are not the same. And likewise in cricket, it's not the same. Originally, these games were in agreement with the South African team to be staged in locked, closed venues. That is, the players, the officials, no spectators, no patrons. Because of Grenada's COVID status and the good work that we have done through the Ministry of Health and other agencies to control this COVID pandemic here in Grenada, we were able to go to CWI, Cricket West Indies, and say, here, we would like to put some patrons in the stands. And the discussion started backward and forward. And we had to give certain assurances to ensure that we meet the requirements as stipulated and governed by what is happening internationally. It's not just in Grenada or the Caribbean, but internationally. And all parties must sign off on and be very comfortable. For example, the South Africans must be very satisfied that they can come and play in the right environment and they will not contract. We are hearing for the first time in Grenada at this level a biosecure bubble. That is, the players from arrival, they must be kept in a sterile environment and cannot engage and interact with persons. Certain levels of COVID testing must be done as stipulated for the duration of their stay, and it's quite challenging. It's challenging for the hotel. It's challenging for the officials at the stadium because it's something that we're seeing for the very first time. It's not business as usual. Walk, purchase a ticket, get inside, we have fun, we wave our flags, and we carry on. It's not. What is also unique about this is that it's being done for the very first time in Grenada, and the rest of the region is looking at us quite closely, what we do, how we do it, why we're doing it. And right behind the South African tour, the Australians are coming. So the Australians are also looking very closely at the performance of Cricket West Indies in delivering these health protocols. For example, the Australians are going to St. Lucia and Barbados, I think. And one of their requirements is that everyone who will interact and engage with their team at the hotels, at the training facilities, at the grounds, must be tested every single day. So there are unique challenges for everyone. I put all this in context to explain to persons the rationale behind having how we plan to approach allowing and accepting spectators into the stands. I make it absolutely clear it will not be what you're accustomed to. It will not be what you used to enjoying. It will not be what you're used to seeing on television. For example, we will not be using the party and the posse stands. We are only using the upper level of our seating bowl. There are a number of things that we have to do. Satisfy CWI, and in turn, they can satisfy the international cricketing community that we can deliver at this level. That's why we're begging the understanding, we're begging the patience of persons and spectators who intend to come. The bottom line is that we are only able to accept persons who are fully vaccinated as spectators. You will have to show proof of 2 shots here in Grenada, or persons who are coming into the country, persons who are fully vaccinated. There have been discussion, we have held discussions, and we have approached CWI because of the size of our facility to have special areas and zone areas for persons and look at the possibility of trying to host persons with single shots. That was not possible. The risk involved, they are not prepared to take that risk, because one must understand that if the simple fact that if one person is discovered, it can impact negatively on everyone. We have to preserve, we cannot allow to compromise that biosecure bubble that we are trying to establish, not just at the National Stadium, but from arrival at the Morris Bishop International Airport to the hotel. All persons, there are certain protocols that must be met. It's being looked at under a microscope with a fine-tooth comb, and we are trying our utmost to ensure that we can deliver at the highest level, and meet and impress not only CWI and the region, but the international sporting community. Tickets for the event, as I said, will go on sale as of today. The cost of the ticket, it's $50 per day. There are other packages involved. You can purchase 5 match day tickets for $200, and you can also, I think, 3 match day tickets for $120. Again, it's $50 per ticket. There are other packages that can cover all 5 matches, and it's one box office in operation. That office is located at the National Stadium. And in purchasing your ticket, you must present a valid, updated ID card and also your COVID certificate. Your name will be placed on the ticket, it will be stamped, and you are the only person that can use that ticket for entry. For example, if I purchase a ticket and I cannot attend the game on Saturday, I cannot call my brother or my sister and say, here, look at a ticket. That's not possible. And everyone entering, before you allow into the Seton Bowl, you will have to present your ticket, you will have to present your ID, you will have to present your vaccine certificate. The Ministry of Health officials will check their database to ensure that Jack Jones is in fact vaccinated. He or she was vaccinated on the 18th of May, just calling a random date, and that person can enter. What is also different is that there'll be no minors. There'll be no one under the age of 18 years allowed into the facility. Why? Because we did not have a vaccination process or rollout for persons 18 years and under. So basically, in a nutshell, that's where we are. That's what is going to happen at the stadium. I want to impress on persons that this is not usual. We have to respond to international happenings. That's where it's being governed from. So do not try to call the minister. Do not try to call the PS or call Troy or call the head of the association and think that you can. It's way beyond us. These are the standards. This is what the expectations are. And we're trying to seek the understanding of persons. It's not business as usual. We informed persons of the games as soon as we knew about the games, and we hinted that we will the vaccine would play a crucial part in getting entrance into the games. It was not easy as saying we were doing this. We had to have discussions. If you remember when we met here, I say, look, we are considering. We had those discussions. It's still ongoing because everyone wants to sign off and say, look, we are in compliance. We are quite sure what is going to happen, what is not going to happen. And even in the Seton Bowl, we are asking persons, it's not the norm that we are accustomed having fun. Chris Gayle hits one into the Seton Bowl and it's 6 runs and we up and down. It's slightly different. And it's because of what is happening regionally and internationally. And again, I beg your understanding. I beg your patience. And I do believe that we can roll this out in a manner that everyone can be impressed. I think I've said quite a lot. In a nutshell, I would like to give the opportunity to persons to pose their questions and their concerns, and let us use the time to ventilate, articulate what the expectations are, because it's crucially important for everyone to understand. So basically, in a nutshell, 1, by tomorrow morning, all persons involved in the event will be on the ground, including both teams, Team West Indies and the South Africans. We can also let you know that a Grenadian, our own Roy Lewis, is a manager of Team West Indies. And the protocol is so rigid that Roy will not be able to be in touch with his embrace or see his family and his friends. He is Grenadian. And I say this to say, you might find especially the West Indian players, and so you might try to call them, and they might distance themselves. One must understand it is deliberate, it's trying to preserve a bigger picture. These same players have to go on to meet Australia. They have international commitments in other parts of the world. So, it is not what we're accustomed to. And that's why I'm trying to take great lengths in explaining and begging your understanding as we move this process forward. So the teams are on the ground. As of tomorrow, the box office for ticket sales being commissioned as of today. The cost of ticket, $50 per game. The entry requirement, you must have your ID, your vaccine certificate, and a valid match day ticket that you can only purchase at the box office at the National Stadium. All sales are final. You cannot transfer or give tickets to other persons. And like I said, don't try to call the minister or call someone in the ministry to get 2 tickets, because it's not the norm. How the whole process is governed now is distinctly different in accordance with international sporting standards. And Grenada, for the very first time, we have to comply. I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister and Mr. Troy Garvey. Colleagues, you've heard from the Minister and Mr. Garvey. Are you ready with your questions? All right, so while we await our colleagues to get themselves together, Mr. Garvey, maybe I can ask you, or maybe Minister as well, is there going to be some sort of a report based on all that you've both said in terms of how Grenada has performed, whether it would be written by Cricket West Indies or whoever, that would show, okay, we have done well, or maybe we needed to do something a little better here, tweak here or there? Would there be a report after the games here?
Well, I can take the lead on that, all due respects to the minister. There's a detailed, lengthy checklist, and you're graded, everything is looked at. The CWI officials will be on the ground. They have been working here for over 5-6 weeks now, ensuring through the local cricket association and the Ministry of Sport to ensure all elements, all areas are covered. And trust me, it's a detailed checklist in terms of all areas, all aspects. And even now, in this environment, it will be looked at, because they have to use this, their ability to deliver here, to impress the Australians and the other tour parties who are coming, that we can deliver. So it's not just about Grenada hosting. It's about Grenada hosting on behalf of the region and trying to impress the world. If the South Africans are not satisfied, everything that we discuss in terms of a protocol, it must be signed off on by the South African team. If they are not comfortable, they are going to say no. And they could have easily said no to having spectators in the stands because they left South Africa with the understanding that these games will be held with no spectators. It limits the risk of them being in touch with persons to contract the COVID-19 virus. Likewise, the Australians are coming. They have not taken the plane as yet. And if anything goes wrong with the South African team, they will say, hold, wait, stop. The Australians refuse, I believe, to tour South Africa because of same concerns. And that is what we are faced with. So Grenada will be closely monitored. The television cameras are going to show certain things. The international community will be looking, and our performances or lack thereof will be looked at. It can impact on our future ability to host games. It can impact on the region. So that's why we say, look, let us be careful in terms of what we do. It's not business as normal. And like you rightfully asked, yes, Grenada, there's someone with a ticking off. Yes, no, not good, need to improve here. And luckily for us, we had on the ground for the past week and a half the medical consultant for CWI, Dr. Oba Galston. And he came here specifically for that, to ensure that, one, that the bubble can be preserved and not compromised, that the players will be properly tested. There are a number of things that is happening behind the scene. It's not just play on the field of play. It's way beyond that. From arrival at the Maurice Bishop International, the transportation to the hotel, what happens at the hotel. For example, we must, compliment Radisson in terms of their response. We spent all of Sunday morning at the hotel trying to ensure that the player, what has to happen, trying to meet the requirements for the players, understanding. If you have ever had the opportunity, or for the lack of a better word, being held in quarantine for 48 hours, for some persons for 48 hours, some persons 5 days, and just waiting, and you cannot go outside of your room. You have to stay, you have to be ordering food. So we have to ensure, one, your meals are on time. We have to ensure the internet is, of a certain quality to make the players comfortable and happy. These are things that, it's not as usual. It's not to say that they can come, go out and have a good time on the beach. They are looking at the Grandans Beach and cannot step foot onto the Grandans Beach. They're on their balconies and looking down and seeing persons in a distance. They're seeing the hotel staff coming to them with masks and, because it's what has to happen. It's not the norm. It's quite different. So that's why we kind of impressing on persons to understand what we are going through and the implications for Grenada, for the region, and for the cricketing world.
Thank you.
And I think Troy has captured almost everything, or most of everything. It's not business as usual. We have had several meetings with CWI and the discussions, the extensive discussions that we have had, with them. And they are looking at every little detail to ensure that we have things on the right track. So it's not business as usual. We are asking the public out there to support the position that we have taken. We are having the games here, but there are certain things that we have to meet, certain criteria that we have to meet to ensure that the game comes out smoothly and safe. We have to be safe. We have to continue with the protocols that we have established ourselves here in Grenada to ensure that our people are safe. So it's not business as usual, and I want to commend and I must applaud the efforts of the chairman, because he has been on the ball and has touched every corner, every nook and corner of getting this game the whole organization of the games, and I must commend him and his team. They are doing an excellent job. And I think that the South Africans, I think the CWI is very pleased with the level of work that has been done so far. They're still asking for more. But we, we're right in the timing is right, and things are happening well. All the preparation at the stadium and everything is in order. So we're ready to kick off the games. I think they've done a great job. Yeah.
So before I bring on my colleagues, Minister, I just want to ask a follow-up question to what you've both said. What would a good report card or an extremely good report card do for Grenada?
Well, put Grenada further on the map. I mean, and something like that, Grenada will be able and will be looked at for hosting other games and larger games, bigger games, etc. So it's a good testing moment for us. And not only for that, for holiday makers, people who are planning and thinking of coming to Grenada, even business people. Persons who want to get into businesses in Grenada, they will see that Grenada has a track record of, shaping things, safety, and things, that kind of discipline. So I think we are well geared up for future, good things to happen in Grenada. And especially with that kind of, in this present situation, that kind of organization that has taken place and is continuing, we are in good stead for a lot of things to come. Yeah.
Just to follow up on the minister's comment, in 2022, you might think it sounds far, the English team should be coming to the region. Mm-hmm. And that is the envy of the Caribbean in terms of not only on the field of play, the traditional rivalry between West Indies and England, but in terms of the persons following the English team. It's so important for tourism and country, and for us to demonstrate that as a country, as a people, that we are quite capable. And these games are very, very important. As I say, it goes beyond the field of play. And as we look ahead, it's important for us to show that, look, we are ready, we are capable, and we're prepared and willing to respond, to deliver at the very highest level.
Thank you very much. GBN, good morning.
Hi, good morning, Gerard Joseph, GBN. Question for Mr. Garvey. Yes, question for Mr. Garvey. In terms of, you would have highlighted that fans who are sitting in the stands, it's not business as usual, especially if you hit a 6. You did not really elaborate on what they should do or don't do. Can you elaborate and clarify?
Okay. It is, as we indicated, we are using the upper level of our seating bowl. And we're looking at having about 50% of the capacity. We have over 12,000 seats available, and we are going to stack the stadium in stages, probably the Royal Louis and the southwestern side of the members' pavilion first, and based on demand, we will spread out as usual. With the likes of Mr. Pollard and Mr. Gale, it's very possible that the ball can reach the upper limits of the stands. Normally, you will find spectators running to retrieve the ball. These are things that cannot be done. Your players, because you do not want to have anyone coming in touch at any time. It might be the ball. Somebody might touch the ball, and that's the kind of protocol we have to understand. That's the difference in the games. So that's why we're trying to keep spectators and fans of the game as far off as is possible, and contain persons in an area to ensure that that biosecure bubble is not compromised, is not infringed on in any way. Our stadium is designed quite uniquely, that the main area, the players, the media, and the officials area is a separate block. So we can isolate persons and keep unwanted persons or unauthorized persons out of that area. So it makes it slightly easier for us based on the design of our facility. But is something that we have to closely monitor. You'll see the police strategically placed to ensure that persons do not come near to on the playing surface, and the players are also briefed in that regard to respond in a particular way. If the ball goes into the stand, the players know that they have to go to retrieve and not expect the ball to be tossed back to them. So all those are little things. The messaging during the games will be very, very crucial. Persons will be constantly reminded to, as much as possible, to wear your mask, to refrain from moving around uselessly, to stay in your social clusters. These are things, the messaging during the game will be crucial. And again, we're begging persons' understanding and cooperation.
Any other question from you, Gerard?
That's it for now.
All right, thank you. Linda Straker, good morning.
Good morning. My question bordered a little bit on what Gerard would have asked, because I can't recall, but I hearing it, but I don't know if it probably was said and I missed it. But I didn't hear anything mentioned about bar operations, whether or not there will be bars operating and vendors allowed to sell, as well as other entertainment that we wouldn't have normally seen happening, whether it's entertainment in the audience or entertainment on the break. The other thing I want to find out about local media, what type of access will they be able to have? And access viewing locally. I know normally when we have those games, it will be shown in the other islands, but it is barred from showing in country. Because of all the new protocol involved, would they make allowance for viewing in country for persons who want to see the game, but they are unable to be at the stadium because they do not fit the criteria to be in the stadium?
Thank you very much, Linda. Very important question. The last concern or question first, the games will be available on Flow Sports. Flow is has the broadcast rights for the games. There will also be some level of radio coverage being mounted for persons who are still interested in radio coverage. There are no provisions for local media to cover the games on the ground, and that must be clearly understood, and the reasons why. As relates to vending opportunities, bar operations, keep in mind the games are about 3 hours long, 3 to 3.5 hours long. And the patrons would be allowed to enter with, it's the basic cricket protocols what we are accustomed to. The prohibited items, the size of coolers. Coolers and so will be allowed. Small coolers that can fit under your seat. No glass bottles, a definite no alcohol will be allowed, and there will be limited amount of vending opportunities available. Because of the restrictions, because of the number of persons that is being expected, it is not the norm, and the COVID-19 protocols governing bars in terms of spaces and persons clustering and congregating, all these things must be adhered to. But I think there are about a couple bar or vending opportunities for persons, but you have to contact the local office to seek and get more information in that regard. What was it? There was another question that she did ask. I know she mentioned the Flow Sports.
Entertainment on
the entertainment will be on the field of play. That one has to understand, like I said before, it is not the norm where we have the party stand and the posse stand and the hype activities and it's different. And one has to keep in mind that it's not normal. We are gradually trying to phase spectators. If you look at all the games on television now, for the first test match in St. Lucia, there were limited or no fans. I think they tried to mount a response for spectators in the second test match. Grenada happens to be the testing ground and the template to roll this process forward in the region. That's why we say no party stand, no posse stand. So there'll be no live music and DJs and persons dancing. We're not at that stage at this point in time. One must, if you look at the games, the England versus New Zealand, you look that the CPL, that the IPL had to be stopped. You look at what's happening around the world. You cannot take chances. So it's not business as usual, and we must approach very cautiously as we plot and plan the return for spectators and patronage for games in the region.
My follow-up question to that, you said no alcohol. Is it no alcohol in the coolers that the spectators will be carrying, or no coolers at all in the bars and anything? No alcohol will be available?
No alcohol will be on sale. Coolers will be subject to random searches. We move this process forward.
Other question, Linda?
No.
Colleagues, anybody else with questions? Okay, Mr. Garvey, just set the scene. I know we spoke in detail about entertainment and all that, but just set the scene for us as to, from the time we arrive at the stadium, what would we see based on what you're talking about now? Presence of the police, presence of Ministry of Health officials who were looking through to make sure you are fully vaccinated, as you say. What would we see?
Okay, let's take it step by step. You can purchase tickets at the National Stadium box office as of today. What is expected? You will present your ID, you will present your certificate of vaccination, and this will be the basis for purchasing a ticket. The ticket will be, your name will be affixed and stamped to the back of the ticket. Okay, so once you have your ticket in hand, then you're ready to come to the games. A single person can purchase a maximum of 4 tickets, but you must have the names and the vaccination certificates of the persons you're purchasing the tickets for. So if you're going to purchase 4 tickets for your brother, your wife, or your cousin, you must have those 4 vaccination certificates with you to purchase those 4 tickets. On your arrival at the stadium, there will be a soft check. The police and other persons will do a soft check to ensure persons coming in have their ID, have their vaccine certificate, and have a match ticket to proceed to the gates. On reaching the designated gates, the persons will be directed to, and you will come in touch with Ministry of Health officials. They will ask you for your vaccination certificate. You will give it. They will enter your name or a number, whatever they have to do, into their database. They will verify, in fact, that Miss Leslie Ann Johnson is fully vaccinated. Then you will proceed in, and you will be allowed into the seating bowl and directed to a specific area. That is, in a nutshell, what we are looking at. So it's not just, I have my ticket, I grab my boys and we go on and we have a big pot and a thing and having fun. That's not what's going to happen. You can bring your small cooler, I think it's 12 by 12, that can fit under a seat. The private security might ask for a random shirt. Please do not try to bring glass bottles and, bottles of alcohol and hide them on your person and things. Let's not try to, because if we fall short here, it's not just an individual incident. It's Grenada that can suffer the consequence here. It's the West Indies that can suffer the consequence here. And we really do not want that. So I'm urging persons to, let's put on a good show. Let's get this right for ourselves as we look forward, for the country, for the region. This opportunity for us as Grenadians to showcase that, the kind of persons we are, the quality persons we are. We have delivered these games, I can go back to Cricket World Cup, against great odds. And all the reports have been extremely positive. At one point in 2006, I remember standing with Cricket World Cup officials and asking Troy, when am I going to see grass at the stadium? When am I going to see grass here? But when came the first ball to be bowled that morning in 2007, we were ready. We have always been, and I think this is another opportunity to showcase that we will be ready. I'd like to take the opportunity to thank some persons. the Minister of Health and her team, the PSs from health, to really how they have assisted in moving this process forward. Our chief medical officer, Dr. Charles, please. Without him, the situation, and we continue. The staff at Radisson, Mr. Redhead and Mr. Mitchell at the RGPF, and Curlin at the Ministry of Health. There are a number of persons. The Cricket Association, Mr. Gill, his team, everybody has been coming together. Holas on the ground, staff on the ground, without these guys, the stadium staff. Because, it was short notice, and everybody had to come together to pool resources to work very, very hard. It's so challenging for the hotel to have persons there and they can't move and they have to they're not accustomed to doing these things. We have 2 chartered flights coming in tomorrow, and the customs, the immigration, all these persons have been on the ball to ensure that the experience, the persons operating the shuttles for us, all these are, persons who came together at short notice to try to make it work. And we're just asking persons to understand. I keep making it over and over. It's not business as usual, but it's something that we can rise to the occasion, and we can and we should deliver.
Thank you so much. Linda Straker, you have another question?
Yes, I have some follow-ups. My first one will be to the minister. I realize that the game will be for almost a week, I think. Within any of those days, is government consider giving time off to maybe public officers who would like to attend the games to attend the games? We know it's in the afternoon. And then my other question to Mr. Garvey, can you tell us what is the cost, Grenada, what it is costing Grenada to host the game? He mentioned earlier that you have to put my face on the ticket and so, and only that person could use the ticket. Is there a refund policy in the event the person cannot attend for one reason or the other? And he also mentioned that there would be daily PCR testing taking place. Is he in a position to tell us approximately how much persons would have to be tested daily, and what time of the day is that result to be taken, the test to be taken and result be known to proceed forward?
Okay, just to clear the air, we'd never indicated that there'd be daily testing. I said that that's part of the requirements for part of the Australians coming into the region. As it relates to the biosecure bubble, there are certain testing procedures in place that is consistent, and we have discussed such with the Ministry of Health, and those testing will be done in accordance to the Ministry of Health indications and laws, and all those will be met, and you are assured of that. As it relates to the tickets cost $50, as I indicated before. All sales are final. So you cannot purchase a ticket and pass it on to someone, or if you are not coming to the game for one reason or another, expect a refund. That is quite standard with events and like this, locally, regionally, and internationally, and there'll be no change. Again, to let you know, the games will be on Saturday, Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday, and then the final Saturday, that's the 3rd of July. As it relates to time off for public officers, that's way beyond my pay grade. I think the minister will be able to respond to such.
Regarding time off for public officers, that's something that is being discussed, and I'm sure that would happen. PSs are discussing that at the moment, and I'm sure there will be a circular informing public officers, but they have to be fully vaccinated.
I also asked about the cost of Grenada for hosting the games. What is the approximate or direct cost involved?
Linda, I will be lying to you if I can just tell you the game is going to cost $10 or $10,000 right now. We are signing off on a number of issues, but I'm sure that the minister will be in a better position to bring clarity to you in that regard.
Linda, not at this moment. We are still tallying and putting things together. We have not reached a stage where we can give you that information right off now. Thank you.
Any other question from you, Linda? Our colleagues, anybody else with questions? All right, colleagues, if there are no more questions, as I mentioned at the start, we do have an official from the Ministry of Education to talk about the CPEA results, which were released yesterday. So we will give you, Honorable Minister and Mr. Garvey, an opportunity to make final words. I'll start with you, Mr. Garvey.
Thank you very much, Leslie Ann, and to the nation. I've said quite a lot. We have said quite a lot. We are doing quite a lot. And at this point, we'd just like to beg your understanding and your cooperation as we deliver these games. It's not business as usual. It's not what you're accustomed to. And Grenada is under the microscope here to ensure that we deliver at the very highest level under some challenging times and circumstances. And with your cooperation, with the hard work of the team, I mentioned some persons. I know there are a number of other persons who probably slipped through the crack, but that's not deliberate. It's just that we're begging your understanding. As relates to the spectators, I know you probably love your cricket. We have a Grenadian on the team. Chris Gale and so are here. I know you would like to see, but international circumstances have placed us where we are today, and we beg your understanding. So the bottom line, you must be fully vaccinated, and it's not what you're used to in lively, traditional Caribbean cricket, which we are so proud of, being very colorful, being very exciting with all the characters and all the show. I think we're some time off still, but I think we're getting there. If we do this right, I do believe that we can get there much sooner rather than later. So again, let's look forward to the games. The box office is open, and again, another opportunity for Grenada to put on a great show. And I'm very, very comfortable and confident in Grenada.
Mr. Garvey, Minister.
Thank you, Lezian. Again, I just want to encourage persons who received the vaccine to attend the matches, follow the protocols. Those who are not fully vaccinated, I'm sure you would tune on to your televisions, etc., to see the games. And I'm encouraging persons to take the vaccine. There will be other games, there will be other activities, social activities that will be taking place here in Grenada, and I'm sure you will want to attend. This morning I want to encourage you to take the vaccine. I have had the vaccine, and I feel much, much safer, especially when I travel throughout my communities, etc. I feel much, much safer now that I've taken the vaccine. So I'm encouraging you, and just work with us, follow the protocols, and enjoy the matches that will be played here in Grenada. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Honourable Minister and Mr. Troy Garvey. So there we had it from the Minister for Sports, Culture and the Arts, Fisheries and Cooperatives, the Honourable Yolande Bain Hosford, as well as Mr. Troy Garvey, Chairperson of the National Organising Committee for the upcoming games, West Indies versus South Africa. And as they mentioned, fully vaccinated persons, it will not be business as usual, but this is an opportunity for Grenada to show exactly what we can do. As a small country, we can pull this off, but we need the cooperation of each and every one of you. Colleagues, stay with us, and viewers as well, stay with us. We will have an official from the Ministry of Education. As I mentioned a few moments ago, we will be talking about the CPEA results, which were released yesterday.
Vaccination has a history across the world, right? It's a history that says also, though, that when you do go through with vaccination across a society, as with smallpox and polio and so on, it is quite likely that you're going to have a society that is relatively safe from the virus.
The country and for the rest of the world to get back to normalcy, we need to be vaccinated. This is the importance of it. You understand? As we can see right now, how the country is going right now, there's a lot of people that are on the breadline and everything, and tourism is one of our biggest contributor right now to the economy. And without tourists coming in, without persons being vaccinated here and abroad, we cannot see any business coming in, and we need it.
Spectacular. It's been a day that I've been waiting for a long while. It's over a year that we've been involved with COVID-19, and I think today signals the end of that long, dark passage that we've been through. I think all of us as leaders of various organisations need to be sure that we are taking the vaccine to show that there's no difficulty with it at all. But also added to that, we need to get back to work. And as we need to get back to work, it's important that we're all taking the vaccine so we protect our nation.
So I didn't really had any problem. I didn't have no fever. I didn't have no symptoms because we had this kind of kicks going on, we have no symptoms. I had no side effect of it at all. So I think it's a positive. People should go out and try to get themselves more aware and stop listening to media and Facebook and people who don't even have the experience with the vaccine.
I will say they should listen to the science, they should listen to the experts, and they should pay less attention to the social media because that is not science and this is not expert opinion. So I think they should take the vaccine. It's the only way in which we will be able to revive the economy and get back to business as usual.
I think when we don't look simply at me and my, because I find a lot of people here and all over the world.
So good morning to you once again, and we are back with you as promised for the second part of our post-cabinet press briefing. It is good to be with you once again, and we have with us now Miss Michelle George. She is the Deputy Chief Education Officer with responsibility for the exams unit, and as I mentioned a few moments ago, we are talking this morning about the CPEA exams. Without any further ado, I will hand you over to Miss George. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much, Ms. Johnson. I'm just going to give a brief overview of the CPEA examination. And as most persons are aware, the results were published only yesterday. And I know that several persons may very well be excited about the results of the examination. In terms of CPEA registration, we had a total of 1,906 students registered to write the examination. 1,026 were male and 880 were females. In terms of the writing, however, not all students who were registered wrote the examination. For the external components, we had a total of 1,890. The internal components, we had 1,901 students writing the internal aspect of the CPEA examination. And persons may be wondering why we have persons who are registered and then they're not writing the CPEA examination. But of course, you have persons who may very well migrate. You have various reasons why students may not show up to write the examination on that day. In terms of assignment of our students now, the results, we had 1,720 students assigned to a secondary school. So in other words, after the results, at the Ministry of Education, we looked at the students who have attained at least 50% or more in the examination, and these students were assigned to a secondary school. Total 1,720. 892 were males, while 828 of them were females. Now, this means that we had 181 students retained, 134 were males, and 47, that is, were females. In terms of the results, but before I go into the results, I must mention this because I am certain someone may very well have a question on, the number, in terms of the number retained. As I said, we have 181 retained. Over the years, we have had around that number or even higher, sometimes a little bit lower. If we look back in history, I can take you back to 2011, for instance, when we had the last year of the Common Entrance Exam, we had 240. And then remember 2012, the introduction of CPA for the first time. All students went to a secondary school. That year we had universal access. 2013, 41 students were left back. Then we decided that we were just going to leave back a few percentage of students that year. 2014, 168. 2015, 272, and then, of course, the pass mark was 50%. 2016, 232 students were retained. 2017, 189 students were retained. 2018, 198, and so forth. So that number basically is comparable to the other years. In terms of performance, I'm looking at the results. I'm going to, of course, give you an overview of the general results. We had a national mean of 69.69% in the overall assessment. Now, that is a decline, just a slight decline of 1.99% as compared to 2019. And we must compare it to 2019 because, as you can recall, in 2020, we did not have the external component of the CPO examination. Therefore, the MCT and the internal component of the CPA were used to assign students to a secondary school. In 2018, the national mean was 68.80, while 2017, it was 69.46. Our standard deviation for this year was 14.81. In terms of the percentage of students obtaining 50% or more in the examination, we had 90.48% of our students move into a secondary level education. And again, although we had a decline as compared to last year and year before, in terms of the number of the percentage of students who were assigned, I must say it is still a good percentage. Once they're about 90 and above, we consider it a fairly good percentage in terms of the students who are moving on to the next level. We had also the external components of the examination. We had 1,376 students obtaining 50% or more in that aspect, and the internal 1,854 students obtaining 50% or more in the internal. When we look specifically at the subject areas, we had the best performing area in the external component was language arts. Now, the mean score in that area was 65.39 as compared to 65.83. So as you can see, this is basically comparable to 2019 performance in the area of language arts. Over the years, we had the best performing subject was really science in the external component of the CPA. The worst performing area for the external, that's the final exam that the students sat, was mathematics. The mean score was 49.06 compared to 55.56 in the year 2019. And here we can see a significant decline in the area of mathematics this year. And in fact, I think that is basically, I think that's the first time we have seen a percentage that is under 50% in terms of mathematics. The internal components, we had the best performing area as social studies and the worst performing area, again, as mathematics. In social studies, the mean score this year was 83.07, while in 2019 it was 80.39. In terms of mathematics for the internal, it was 81.16, 2021 as compared to 79.95 in 2019. So although mathematics was the worst performing, the students still perform okay, satisfactory in that particular area. All right. And I must say as well, you may see a difference in terms of the internal and external area, and that is what we expect basically, because students are expected to really get the internal part of the assessment, get it really going well. We expect them to redo the writing process, go over it over and over until they reach close to perfection. And that is basically the purpose of the continuous assessment that we have that is happening with the CPA. Students are given several opportunities to prepare a paper, a project, whatever it may be, and then they have an opportunity to redo it so that they can get the best mark at the end of the day.
Thank you very much, Ms. George. Colleagues, so you've received a comprehensive report from Ms. George. Any questions from you? GBN, good morning. You have a question?
Yes, good morning. Gerard Joseph, GBN. My first question, you would have highlighted that some of the students did not seat the CPA. Was it, one of the reasons was it that students decided to deter for the next year for CPA?
No, as we said, we had persons who would migrate in some instances, and there were one or two instances where students just didn't show up. Some, one or two students who probably fearful, and we've had that over the years where you expect them to come out on the day of the examination, and because they are fearful, they do not come. In fact, there was a situation this year where one young man, he started to go, he was late, he was on the bus, and then someone said to him, okay, you're too late for the examination, it's finished already. It has started already, that is. So he went back home, and then the principal had to call home, get the parents, and get the child to come back to the examination also. Sometimes I think it's a matter of fear. And some of them, one or two, may very well not show up because of that sort of fear for the examination. But oftentimes you have migration as a critical factor into that. And of course, we had a few students who were in a special program as well that we had at the Ministry of Education. So even though they were initially registered for the examination, they were already successful in what we had a baseline examination that was done as well. So that could have as well accounted for the amount that were absent, that was absent.
Any other questions, Gerard? Colleagues, anybody else with questions? Okay, Ms. George, you mentioned about a significant decline in mathematics in both the internal and external. What might be the reason for that, and what can be done to remedy that situation?
Well, mathematics is an area of practice. You need a lot of practice. It must be done. As someone who loves mathematics myself, I know that it takes a lot really to get mathematics going. So I think probably the time that persons lost at the grade 5 level could have attributed to that. So you had less time to practice the mathematics as much as it should have been practiced. So that could have been a contributing factor as to why students' performance was not as it was in previous years. And what we need to do actually to improve performance in mathematics, we need to ensure that students really are exposed as much as possible to a lot of work in mathematics. And it should not be same examples, but a variety of areas. We have to look at the various strategies that we're using as well. But I believe if we have students practicing even more, they definitely will perform well, because I know the teachers have worked really hard, I must add at this point, with our students. I can tell you, even though the students missed from grade 5, also in grade 6 as well at the beginning, they really worked hard to get them at least at that level. To have a percentage pass of 90% or more, I think is commendable, and I believe that as a Ministry of Education, we must still say congratulations to our teachers to bringing them at least at that level, knowing the amount that they had of time that was lost in the classroom for this batch of children.
Thank you. GBN, you have another question?
Yes, I do. This is a question not really on CPA, but more on CXC. It's in regards to similar, in terms of how many, if any, students who have deferred for CXC thus far.
Just repeat the question first, Gerard.
In terms of how many, if any, students who would be sitting CXC, have any of them deferred?
Yes, we have a number. I do not quite have that exact figure with you, and I really don't want to give you the inaccurate information. But yes, from Grenada, we've had a number of deferrals for the CSEC examination for this year. And of course, persons can defer to either January or to May, June 2022.
That's it, Gerard?
No, I have a follow-up.
Go ahead.
In terms of, you said defer to January or the next year in terms of June, July 2022, how would that affect any students? How would that affect any student?
In terms of affecting the students, they will not be affected negatively at all. In fact, they will just have more time to prepare for the examination, because you're talking about an entire year. They do not have to pay any funds again for the deferral or anything. It is basically the deferral. It doesn't have a cost. All they need to do is just to make sure that they have the SBAs and so forth ready for come October or so as the last deadline, based on my recollection of it. And they will be, again, ready to write the examination come whether it's January they deferred for or May, June 2022. So I don't think they will be affected at all. In fact, it will be a plus, I think, for most of them who have deferred. Now they can make that final preparation and make sure that they are ready. And remember, most persons who deferred are persons who are basically affected in some way or the other because of the COVID situation and other issues that may have come up during that particular time. Mm-hmm.
That's it for you, Gerard?
No, I have a next question. Other than in terms of, normal school, in terms of resuming in September, would there be any summer programs for such students who were affected and decided to defer to next year?
From the Ministry of Education, and no, I think that has to be worked out from, I think some of the things have to be worked out from the school end, but from the Ministry of Education, and no. But of course, I'm certain that these are some of the decisions that the authorities will inform if there is need to later on. Okay.
Okay, my final question, in terms of there were unfortunate tragic incidents, one at Ruby's, another at Springs with our first homicide for the year. Two of those families had students who are sitting the exams this year, the Ministry of Education would have said they will be providing psychological support for the one at Springs. Has there been any further assistance in terms of helping these two students, with the exams, whether they will be deferring or assisting in any way possible, more than psychological support for their examinations for CXC this year?
CXC has systems in place to, accommodate students who are in such situations. We have special accommodation, whether it's compassionate, whatever it may be. So that is something that has been happening over the years. So the system, we have it in place. There is a structure there at the Ministry of Education that we follow, and it has been followed to ensure that has happened. But I think when the incidents happened, already the date for deferral, it was closed. So in terms of that, there are other systems that we have in place whereby we can assist the students who end up in these difficulties. And we have done that in the past. It's nothing new. We've had several situations, several unfortunate circumstances occurring, and we have dealt with it, I think, as a Ministry of Education in collaboration with the Caribbean Examinations Council. Of course, we must have the documentation that is important, the evidence and so forth, to be able to deal with that situation. So I think that is it. I do not want to stray too much from the CPA. I really want to stay on point with the CPA, but I think you had some wonderful questions there in terms of CSEC. But we are prepared as a Ministry of Education, as I said, we work in collaboration with CXC to ensure that these students are well taken care of, accommodation for them. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Jared. So, Ms. George, we know the, in CPA, there's always the issue of transfer. Can we talk about that now?
Okay, great. Yes, we know that, sometimes our parents, they love for students to go to particular schools and so forth. And I know what it feels like because I'm a parent myself. But I just want to let persons know that once schools are filled to capacity, that the Ministry of Education, we will not be accommodating any transfers, right? And I'm also going to just give you an overview as to the expectation in terms of transfer. This year, we have changed it a bit in that, whereas last year or so, year before, and so forth, the Ministry of Education was responsible for all transfers. Yes, we are still responsible for transfers. However, the process has changed a bit. Okay? So the secondary schools, right? The secondary schools, if you're interested in a transfer, please, parents, ensure that you contact the secondary school, not physical contact now, right? So you can send them an email, you can call them, all right? And they will provide you with a link to the transfer form, right? So that link is what you're going to use. It's electronic to apply for a transfer. Do not come to the Ministry of Education because we will not be able to assist you with that. Do not go to the schools either, to the secondary schools. However, that link that they will provide you with, you can use it to access the transfer form electronically. Now, please note, you have 5 days after the publication of the results to submit your transfer form. So the results were released yesterday. It means that you have up to June 28th that's a deadline for the submission of the electronic transfer form, right? Now, persons I know have started to use the link that we had last time, last year. So you can also go on weboffice.gd also if you were using it from last time. But we prefer if you use a link from the schools because it will be easily accessible by the schools themselves. Now, once that information has been received by the schools, then they will have their transfer committee established, the principal, vice principal, manager, and so forth. And that committee will make that decision on transfer. Okay? Now, the school has 2 weeks after the publication of the results from yesterday. So we have 2 weeks now, the schools, to submit that to the Ministry of Education. And once it is submitted to the Ministry of Education, then the ministry will just give the final approval for that transfer information that was sent to the ministry. All right? And persons will thereafter be notified through the secondary school once the transfer was approved by the ministry. So the process for transfers, it's a bit different this year, and I want persons, please do not come to the Ministry of Education, because we will not be able to assist you. All we can tell you, okay, here is a link, go ahead and process it online. That's all we can tell you if you come. So it makes sense that you just stay where you are. You can make a phone call to the schools, the secondary school, and that you can use to be able to apply for transfer.
Thank you very much, Ms. George. Colleagues, any quick question to clarify anything on the transfer issue before we wrap things up this morning? All right, it seems as though we've understood everything, so thank you, colleagues. Ms. George, any final quick words from you?
I was just saying it is remiss of me not to congratulate our students. This year, I really, on behalf of the Ministry of Education, want to say congratulations to all of the successful candidates who wrote the CPA examination this year. You have done well. And to those who were not successful, I also want to say you have a next chance to prove yourself and to do well and to move on to a secondary level education. So do not give up. Stay focused. Practice your math. Read your books. Listen to your teachers. And definitely something will happen for you in the next year. I also specifically want to congratulate the top performers. I want to say congratulations to Mr. Ryan, that's at Westmoreland, for the top position. I want to congratulate Tiana from Grenada Junior Academy. I want to congratulate Mr. Jessamy from Croshaw RC and also Mr. Smart from St. Andrew Methodist. You did well, and I think you must be applauded from us at the Ministry of Education. Not only those students, but maybe a number of you probably placed in the top 200, congratulations to you. And as I said, to every student who wrote the examination, you must be commended for a job well done, those of you who were successful. And I really want to encourage our parents to make sure that you continue to provide the support that is needed to your children so that they can be successful in the upcoming CPA examination. So on this note, thank you so much. Thank you to our parents. Thank you to our principals. Thank you to our principals and our teachers. You have done an incredible job. You must be commended. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. George. So, colleagues, there we have it. We have been speaking here with Ms. George, Michelle George, the Deputy Chief Education Officer with responsibility for the exams unit, and of course, giving a breakdown of statistics with the CPEA exams which were released yesterday. So we say thank you again to all our colleagues who joined us via Zoom, our viewers on the Channel 22 Facebook page, the YouTube channel, and of course on our live stream, and those of you in the diaspora. Have a blessed day, everybody. Thank you.